My name is John McCallan, and I've been growing and collecting orchids for about 25 years now. I first learned about orchids when I was a little kid, so about 8 years old or so, and I lived in Telluride, Colorado. This was before it became the resort destination that it is today. It was a small mountain town at the time, and I went into the flower shop, the one flower shop in town, and I saw a beautiful pink bloom on a plant that I'd never seen before. And I was just fascinated by what it looked like. I asked the shopkeeper, like, what is this? And he said, oh, it's a phalaenopsis, it's a moth orchid. I was like, I've never heard of or seen anything like this. It was, just the shape and design of the flower was so fascinating to me. So I went home and I decided I wanted to learn more about this thing that had just captured my attention so much. And about a year later, when I went to visit my dad in Hawaii, I saw all kinds of orchids, including in the airport. They had them packaged up and treated so that you could take them back to the mainland. And as I was leaving, visiting, I thought, like, okay, this is my chance to have one of my own. And I picked a white dendrobium, which is a plant that requires a lot of light and significant warmth. So needless to say, it struggled for me in Colorado. We lived at about 9,000 feet up in the mountains. And so it was a challenge to keep it alive, but I learned a lot about what orchids are and what they need in order to thrive through caring for this plant. And that was the start of my collection. Over the years, I moved from Colorado to the Pacific Northwest, to Western Washington. I kept my collection in my room when I was a little kid, which is interesting. You know, we had a humidifier running all the time and various large storage Tupperwares to collect the water running out of the bottom of the pots. And then by the time I was about 13 or 14, we built my first greenhouse, which was wonderful because it allowed me to expand my collection and also keep the plants a little bit happier because they weren't trying to be forced into living conditions that are comfortable for a person, but they could be in a place where we could keep it warm and humid, and there was more light for them outdoors. And so that was a really big turning point in my relationship with orchids. I was still young, and I was going to school, and I was doing athletics and had other focuses, but that was always a part of my life growing up through childhood. I moved to California to go to college at Stanford University, and I left my greenhouse behind at home in the care of my mother. It was difficult to move into a dorm living situation and kind of let go of the large gardens that I had built and maintained, and then also my collection of orchids. I always kept one or two in my room while I was at college, but conditions there, again, were not ideal for most of the types of orchids that I grow. After I graduated, I moved to San Francisco. And once I started working, then I sort of rebuilt more of a collection in California, because in 2011, our house in Washington burned down. And it was in January, in the middle of winter, and the electricity to the greenhouse was supplied from the house. So the power went out and all the tropical orchids froze. So that was it was a difficult blow to me. There were many plants in that greenhouse that I had cared for years and that I had gotten from other people who'd taken good care of them for a long time. So in fact, many of the plants that died in that event were much older than me. So now that I live in Southern California, I'm lucky to have the opportunity to have a little bit more space, and I can have a greenhouse to keep my orchid collection in, once again, outside the house, where in theory at least it would be a little bit easier to create the conditions that they love. Most of my orchids come from medium to high elevation in South America, so they like it relatively cool and pretty humid all the time, which in Southern California, especially with the heating effect of a greenhouse, has proven challenging to recreate. One of the things that we're working on here right now is just figuring out how to increase the humidity and keep the temperature exactly where it should be for the plants. So I'll be installing an exhaust fan and working on the humidity system, and hopefully the plants that see around me will become happier and healthier.
Thank you, John. It's me, Nico Antonian, and it's my friend, John McCallan. Thank you.